Hello, everyone. I am here to talk about an article entitled Experimental Evidence of Massive Scale Emotional Contagion Through Social Networks that was first published in the Proceedings for the National Academy of Sciences in summer 2014. It was written by Adam Kramer, Jamie Gillieri, and I believe Jeff Hancock is his name. And I originally presented this in English 674, which is a topics course, and this one was on ethics in professional communication. So this is the original article citation. You'll see that it was originally in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences in 2014, as I stated. So we're going to start out with an ethical concern. This is right off the bat, before you even read the article, it's right on top of it. Called an editorial expression of concern. I'm going to read it because it's interesting enough that it should be read. Obtaining informed consent and allowing participants to opt out are best practices in most instances under the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services policy for the protection of human research subjects, which is known as the Common Rule. Adherence to the Common Rule is PNAS policy, but as a private company, Facebook was under no obligation to conform to the provisions of the Common Rule when it collected the data used by authors, and the Common Rule does not preclude their use of the data. We'll go into this more later, but that is just something that's very interesting right off the bat. A little bit of background information. The study was conducted between January 11th and January 18th of 2012. So I went and looked at my Facebook posts during that week. Facebook allows you to go back and do that, which is both creepy and interesting. What I noticed is mostly I just quote songs, which should surprise no one that knows me. So I don't know if I was part of a group in this study, because if I was, I don't really think I conformed to what they wanted me to be doing. The three groups, plus a control group, were a group where they manipulated the Facebook newsfeed to see more positive emotional posts, and then a group where they manipulated the Facebook newsfeed to see more negative emotional posts, and then one where they took the emotion away. They got rid of more of the emotion and the emotional posts and tried to make it more neutral, and then there was control groups. So I would wager a guess that if I was in any of the groups, I wasn't helpful to them. So I posted a lot this week. These are the rest of them. Everything on this page is from songs, so not helpful at all. I enjoy lyrics, I enjoy words. This should surprise no one. So, first argument that the people at Facebook made was that the news feed is not directed at a single person, and that's why they can manipulate it this way, which is true still. You can see here that when you post something on Facebook, it just goes to everyone who's friends with you. You can kind of control whose posts you see more of and whose posts you see less of, but you pretty much, you just kind of see what's put out there. So that's one of the things that they were trying to prove in their arguments, was that they could manipulate this way just because people aren't directing their news feeds to anyone in particular. But the thing about that is, now you can in some ways, because you can tag people in your posts, so then it will go on the news feed and that person will see that it's for them. Like, they'll get a notification that it's for them and they'll be able to look at it, but then it also opens it up that it's not only just your friends that see it, but it's all of their friends that can also see it. So Facebook is trying to do a lot of things here. I don't really know that this argument is valid anymore 3 years later, but in 2012 that probably was a pretty good point in their argument. Here's another example of both a post going to a general large audience and also directed at certain people. This is one of the authors of this paper, Adam D.I. Kramer. He's the one that works for Facebook. So it makes sense that he would do a lengthy Facebook post about this article, which it was so long I had to do it in 2 screenshots. He tags, you'll see if you look at the screen, he tags both of his co-authors in the post. He tags their Facebook profiles, which is a risky move in my opinion, because a lot of academics kind of want to distance who they are on Facebook from who they are professionally. and he talks about why he thinks this was ethically fine, why he doesn't think they violated anything, and that he's very proud of this paper. So it's very interesting, and you'll see at the bottom it has been shared at this point. This was in early to mid-July when I took this screenshot. At that point, it had been shared 745 times, and 901 people have liked it. I doubt that those are his friends. I bet it was mostly people who read the article, looked him up because he works at Facebook, and found him. Another argument that they're trying to make is that nonverbal behavior isn't necessary for this emotional contagion, that you should be able to tell what a person is feeling based on their words, and that is why they were able to manipulate emotions on the newsfeed, which this is probably one of the more emotional posts that I've ever done, and especially in this year that the study was being conducted. Can you tell I'm excited by reading this? I'm at twin spring training with my parents, and that's probably about as emotional as I got then. So what does this mean? You really don't need to see a person or to hear them talk to be able to tell what they're feeling, which I don't really think we needed this study in order to prove that. It's sort of the whole industry of fiction, is it not? You should be able to tell what's going on based on the words. So I don't really think we needed this study to prove that, but that was one of their arguments, and I think they proved it. I think it's pretty clear. As you'll notice, I continue to screenshot myself on Facebook throughout this article, which I thought was a good, if I'm going to screenshot anyone, it should be myself. So I thought that was a good way to go about doing this. Their third argument is that there is also a withdrawal effect on Facebook, which means that they can take emotional posts away, and then the people who see less emotion will be less emotional. And I mean, they proved it. They were able to prove that this is true. I don't doubt it. I'm not very emotional on Facebook because I think that a public life like that should be separate from a person's private life. That's my personal opinion. So I think that might be true, but I also think that people choose to be not emotional for the same reason I do. So, they did prove it, so that's good, but I don't necessarily know that this study was needed to prove that. So what does this mean? I kind of already explained this. It just means that seeing emotion will make you be emotional, seeing less emotion will make you be less emotional. Sure, yeah, it probably does. For some people, it probably, you try to be like your friends, so it makes sense. The fourth argument, and this was their final argument, was that they could change the newsfeed by just a small percent, but it could have overwhelmingly larger effects on people as it's like a ripple effect kind of thing. I had a hard time finding an example of this in myself, and this was the best that I had. It's sort of the same concept as like a viral video sort of thing, where you might do one little thing and then this person shares it, who shares it with someone else, who shares it with someone else, who shares it with someone else. It's completely a ripple effect. And this is my only example that I have. In 2012, I wrote a blog post that was picked up by Minnesota United for All Families. I allowed them to do that, so they asked me and everything, and I allowed them to share it. And it was read almost 1,100 times. I have never written another blog post that has had that kind of traffic, and it was because it was shared by this broader thing, and people are fighting for a single cause, and people get behind that, and it didn't go, I wouldn't say viral, it didn't have that many views, but it had more than anything else I've ever had or written or anything. So it was an interesting little world to be in at that point. So what does this mean? I think this was the original research that might have started stuff trending on Facebook, and I think they were kind of trying to research the phenomenon of the viral posts and videos and stuff, and I don't really know if they were able to find anything super innovative, super new about that. But I mean, if you're putting a lot of negative emotion on someone's newsfeed to see how they react, yeah, they're probably not going to be super happy, whether they realize it or not. So what they're trying to do, or what they were trying to do, it makes sense. It does. Yeah, that probably doesn't need any more explanation. So this is the crux of the presentation. Was this paper ethical? Was it? I think everyone kind of is going to have their own opinion on that. A lot of opinions surfaced within the 2 weeks following the paper's release, which is around the time when I was doing my research. To go back to that editorial expression of concern from the first slide, the journal acknowledges that the common rule wasn't followed. So for that reason, Cornell, which is the university that, aside from Adam Kramer, the other two researchers were from Cornell tried to distance themselves from this research. They didn't really want anything to do with it because they knew that this rule, this general common rule, was not being followed. So, but I mean, they couldn't do anything about it because Facebook is a private company. You consent to participate in this stuff when you agree to the terms of use and create an account, which is part of, like, is that ethical? We'll go into that a little bit. This is their data use policy, or at least this was the data use policy in July of 2014. I took a little screenshot of it. You'll just based on this, you'll be able to see that they're saying so much, and they're basically leaving themselves completely, like taking the liability completely away from themselves. They don't want anything to do with anything. Like, but they can use whatever you put on there for anything that they want. That's their prerogative because you're agreeing to this stuff. So the link to, at least this was the link in July 2012, to the Facebook privacy policy and the data use policy is on this page. This is only a tiny, tiny bit of a very large policy. So it goes to show, like, why people maybe, even if they did read it in full, wouldn't completely understand. And yeah, we'll go into that too. So here is the issue that people were finding with this data use policy. Most scientists would not check in the box that says you agree to the terms and use of evidence of informed consent, because who reads that? Who reads that? When you want to make a Facebook, are you really going to read all the terms of use? No. Should you? Yeah, you should, especially if you're upset about studies like this being done, but that doesn't mean that people did. Especially, hindsight, people didn't. In an opinion piece in CNN, I showed a little screenshot of the title 2 slides ago. Robert Klitzman says that even though the Facebook says they didn't violate anything, the researchers at Cornell should have known better. They should have known. Excuse me. So this was my working bibliography. That's the Klitzman article from CNN Opinion. I read an article from the Washington Post by Gail Sullivan. And then I did mention a Slate article a couple slides ago by Katie Waldman. I think that was the original article that I read that got me interested in this and made me find the article from PNAS in the first place. So I also did a little bit of other searching to see if there was enough information to go into more depth on this topic. This was a Google Scholar search. I searched Facebook and ethics. You will see that while 21,000 results came up very quickly, I don't think any of them would be useful if I was trying to go more in depth on this particular topic. I don't think enough research has been done about Facebook and ethics together to be able to find enough to go into more depth. But you never know until you try. I also did a Google News search. That gave me a lot more results, 105,000 in less than a second. So if you're looking for news, you would be able to find that. but I don't know if you would be able to find enough scholarly works to conduct an actual study, even like a literary study, like based on previous research. I did also do a library search at Mankato and only came up with 439 results. Again, I don't think that would be enough to be able to find research to write something or do a study that was bigger. I think you would need more than what we had, what I was able to find. That is my entire presentation. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you found this interesting. I found the research very interesting, and I'm glad you watched. Thank you.